Welcome to this John's Journal, and we're getting close to wrapping up Nicholas Cresswell's second journey into, I don't know, let's call it the backcountry, because this isn't quite as frontier-y as he was before. This is a little safer, but it's definitely not. It's definitely Native American territory where he's at, and this is all really he's interacting with is Native Americans. So it gives us a really good picture, at least a picture. You know, there could be probably are 1,000 different pictures of what it was like to be in this situation. But here's one of these pictures. Tuesday, August 29th. Left White Eyes Town, saw the bones of Mr. Camel, a white man that had been killed by Indians. Got to Coashoking about noon. It is at the forks of the Muskingum. The Indians have removed from Newcomer Town to this place. King Newcomer lives here. Sold part of my goods here at a good advantage. Crossed a branch of the Muskingum and went to Old Hundy. This is a scattering Indian settlement. Lodged at a Mohawk Indian's house, who offered me his sister and Mr. Anderson his daughter to sleep with, which we were obliged to accept. Wednesday, August 30th. My bedfellow very fond of me this morning and wants to go with me. Find I must often meet with such encounters as these if I do not take a squaw to myself. She is young and sprightly, tolerably handsome, can speak a little English. Agreed to take her. She saddled her horse and went with us to New Hundy, about 3 miles off, where she had several relations, who made me very welcome to such as they had. From there to Coashokus, where we lodged in my squaw's brother's. Made me a compliment of a young wolf, but I could not take it with me. Thursday, August 31st, at Shoahokus, Mr. Anderson could not find his horse. Sold all my goods for furs. In the afternoon, rambled about the town, smoking tobacco with the Indians, and did everything in my power to make myself agreeable to them. Went to see the king. He lives in a poor house. He's as poor in dress as any of them. No emblem of royalty or majesty about him. He's an old man. Treated me very kindly. Called me his good friend, and hoped I would be kind to my squaw. It gave me a small string of wampum as a token of friendship. My squaw uneasy to see me write so much. Friday, September 21st. Now, no, it can't be Friday, September 21st. This has to be Friday, September 1st. There's a little problem there with either his writing or the transcription of it. At Coashokin, Mr. Anderson found his horse, saw an Indian dance in which I bore a part. He goes on to describe that, and then at the end here he says, find myself very unwell this evening, pains in my head and back. Nancy seems very uneasy about my welfare and afraid of the ague. Nancy is his companion here, the Native American. September 2nd, the next day, got to White Eyes Town to breakfast, saw the Indian war marks made by Captain Wingemund, a Delaware warrior, which Mr. Anderson and Captain White Eyes explained to me. These hieroglyphic marks are the history of his whole warfare. He doesn't say it here, but he could be talking about tattoos on the Native American. I think we would read about more about that in a different work that deals with missionaries going into the Native American tribes, especially right here, the Moravians. Called at several Indian villages, crossed the river, got to Newcomer Town, very sick. Nancy's gone to fetch an old Indian woman to cure me, as she says. Therefore, I must lay by my pen. Last night, Nancy brought an Indian squaw to me, this is the next day, which called me her Nilam, or nephew, as Mr. Anderson told me, and behaved very kindly to me. She put her hand on my head for some time, then took a small brown root out of her pocket and with her knife chopped it small, then mixed it with water, which she gave me to drink, or rather swallow, being about a spoonful, but this I evaded by keeping it in my mouth till I found an opportunity to spit it out. She then took some in her mouth and chewed it and spit it on the top of my head, rubbing my head well at the same time. And then she unbuttoned my shirt collar and spat a mouthful down my back. This was uncomfortable, but I bore it with patience. She lent me her match coat, so it's like a shawl, let's say, or a blanket, and told me to go to sleep. Nancy was ordered not to give me any water till morning. However, I prevailed on the good-natured creature to let me have a vomit that Mr. Anderson had with him as soon as the old woman was gone, which has cured me, though the old woman believes that her nostrum did it. Obliged to stay here this day. Somebody has stolen Mr. A's horses. This is a fairly short section here, but a lot has happened in it. And, he's interacted with the Native Americans in selling his trade silver in two different kind of batches. Some for apparently ready money and others for furs, which he's going to trade in when he gets back to civilization. He's had his interactions with sort of families. Notice at the very beginning, he sees the bones of someone. So here this whole time, he's been interacting with the Native Americans, and he's probably interacting with fairly friendly ones. I mean, he's not interacting with a whole bunch of different kinds of tribes necessarily, but, this particular set of Native Americans is, very peaceful compared to some others, possibly in other places. Again, there's 1,000 different stories to hear, but here we are right at the beginning of the war, and they're really not having any problems with this particular set of Native Americans. Now, maybe Mr. Anderson picked out these. He's like, this is going to be our best, set of people to interact with. Maybe not the most profitable interactions, but interactions that'll be safe, especially for somebody like Nicholas Creswell, who's, bumbling around the frontier, getting lost, losing their provisions, and the Native Americans are trading with them, giving them food and shelter this entire time. There's no place else to stay. It's kind of a very, very interesting interaction he's having with these people. And you can really almost kind of feel that they're kind of trying to welcome, and I think this happens with a lot of different, it's like welcoming these people in, almost kind of trying to adopt them into their society and civilization. So here he sees the bones of somebody, but yet he doesn't have any interactions that are negative. Not a single one. Not like, we had a problem with these people, so we left. Nope, nothing like that. Here he has interaction with a Native American healer. And he puts his cure to medicine that Mr. Anderson had with him, but it could have been the roots that the Native American person had. Who knows? The fact that he thinks it's one thing is hard to say. He's probably interacting with a completely different, undoubtedly a different diet than he's used to. So maybe it's just a stomach upset kind of a thing. It could be something else. Again, although notice the little note that he puts in here about the people being, or as Nancy, his companion here, being unhappy with watching him write. And we'll find that in other places also. I think Colonel John Smith and possibly the Heckewelder journals. The Native Americans are very suspicious of writing, people writing on, in journals and notebooks, and it disturbs them. And it's hinted in other journals that they don't like people writing because their interactions with people writing are generally with treaties, and those things generally turned out bad for them, and so, or almost always. So they're suspicious of writing, and they're not sure what's going on, even though they have a similar form of that. Even in this reading, where he's talking about these hieroglyphics, whether they mean writing on rocks or tattoos or whatever, this kind of writing that they're doing, they're very suspicious of. Really interesting to see what these interactions are like in this particular setting. He's working with the Delaware in, some segment of them are, Christianized, as he would say it, so and tend to be very peaceful in these situations. He's been in situations where it's possible for them to run into much more aggressive Native Americans, and still he hasn't had that kind of problem. But he's heard about that. He's even seen the effects of that, but none of that firsthand for him. There's a lot to take away from these readings, and undoubtedly we'll read more in other journals come the future. I really want to kind of connect the hieroglyphics part and the story of this one warrior's life with a particular Heckewelder chapter which covers that same topic. So maybe in the next episode I'll pop over. We'll find that reading, if I can find that book in my collection somewhere. I can see it in my mind's eye, but can I find it on the shelf? Really good question. But that will really give us a greater feel for what that little section in this journal is all about. And the journals really kind of, if you find the right ones, interlock and give you a much deeper story for each one of these gentlemen. So can't wait to find that reading and bring it to you. Thank you for being part of Townsends Plus, going on this journey with me. And like I said, there's so much to learn, and these are, I love this because it's dipping into history in a very personal kind of way. It's not that backed out history book, 100,000-foot view, which I'm not even sure is always correct, that gives us the motions of, the great movers and shakers in society, and huge societal moves and wars, but the story of a particular person and what's happening with him. We're just regular people, and just regular things happen to us. And I think watching history through the eyes of a regular person personalizes it and makes us realize that this isn't some fantasy that happened, 200 and 250 years ago. This is real people, just like you and I, things happening to them, and we can learn a lot about ourselves and what's happening to us. What if we had this adventure? And some of us have had adventures very like that. I've had some adventures like this that I wish I would have written down the individual, days, and realized kind of fantastical things that have happened that when I look back on it, it's like, oh, well, it was just a regular day. Except it wasn't. Again, thanks for being a part of Townsends Plus. And thank you for your amazing support. We'll see you later.